and let us all do we can to build a better future.
All right, we got to talk about AOC. I know. This is the fallout of AOC's endorsement. Dare I say it, Bernie Sanders' endorsement too of Joe 30330. And this is what I like to call the rise and fall of the great progressive movement. And, you know, you can't talk about AOC or Bernie Sanders without also mentioning a TYT. Now, obviously, I want to be clear here. Anna was recently on a show where, you know, she talked about how she's overall been feeling about with the messaging that's been done by those who are a little bit more puritanical on the left, to which I have to agree. Look, I think calling a woman's reproductive part a bonus hole, I mean, come on. Bounds of reason here. No. Or women being called birthing people. It's just, come on. That's none of that makes sense, but I get it. And look, I know I posted a question on our community page asking whether Anna's being sincere or not. I like to think that she is changing her opinion, as is TYT. But again, remember, they helped build that entire movement up and also give a platform to a lot of people, especially those that have been giving their support towards a lot of these Puritans on the left, most notably AOC and Bernie Sanders, to which I have to say, this is the end of that political movement. And I think it's the end of really the overall message that AOC has and over progressives. Because it's one thing to say that she's still popular, and the answer is yes, she is. But overall, when you see tweets like this come out, and I just want to share it with all of you, we really need to look at those who thought they had influence over the Democratic Party had none whatsoever. And then when you try and change the Democratic Party, all what you're going to be in store for is disappointment. So Cenk Uygur tweets this out. Both AOC and Bernie Sanders' endorsements of Biden are way, way too early, you think? First, this primary hasn't even begun, let alone ended. Second, you're enabling a very mediocre record. He gave Manchin more than he gave progressives. Cenk, you told us if we kept our powder dry, you know, AOC and Bernie would fight for us and push Biden to the left. Remember, you said that, especially during forced to vote. That should not be rewarded, especially this early. Cenk, why are you surprised by this, buddy? I mean, hell, you defended AOC during forced to vote. And she didn't do anything to fight for $15 minimum wage. She didn't even acknowledge the March for Medicare for All. She didn't acknowledge the Force to Vote movement. She didn't acknowledge the 3-day General Strike Summit meeting that was hosted by RBN. All of this taking place in 2021. Keep our powder dry, and AOC and Bernie Sanders, we're going to push Biden to the left. They constantly gave excuse after excuse for Joe Biden. And of course, you did carry the water for them. I also want to pull up this tweet here as well. Because, again, I don't know. I'm kind of waiting for Cenk to tell us, oh, we got to vote for Biden because Trump. Don't worry. I have a feeling we're going to see a video like that somewhere in 2024. If that doesn't happen, I will be surprised. You didn't even bother proposing the public option, let alone universal health care. Sorry, but you don't get to BS like this anymore, which you helped enable, including with AOC and Bernie. And this is a tweet from Joe Biden. On my watch, healthcare is a right, not a privilege, to which I have to love community notes to say, Joe Biden has never publicly supported universal healthcare or Medicare for all, and has suggested he would veto bills that implement such a system. His stated goal is affordable healthcare achieved by expanding existing programs like the Affordable Care Act and Medicare. The Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare, which is really known as Romney Care, which came from a Heritage Foundation, which is a Republican think tank. So look, prepare for disappointment, because we got to pull this up here, because it's AOC endorsing Joe Biden. Hear her own words.
The president's only primary opponents are Marianne Williamson, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Haven't been any rumors about anyone else even thinking about jumping in. Will you be supporting Joe Biden for re-election?
I believe, given that field, yes. I think he's done.
So, in other words, she doesn't want to do anything. She's going to trick all of her supporters supporting a guy who's been on the wrong side of history. And she just wants everyone to vote blue. And trust the Democrats this time around. They'll never screw you over.
Quite well, given the limitations that we have. I do think that there are ebbs and flows, as there are in any presidency. There are areas that I think were quite strong when he came right out of the gate with the American Rescue Plan. And of course, the Inflation Reduction Act was a massive step.
All the things she's saying are nothing burgers. She's lying. And you could tell from her body language, she's not being sincere. She's telling the truth, at least or her own version of the truth. And that is, she's making an excuse for Joe Biden's mediocre record.
In terms of our climate agenda. But, there are also areas that I think could have gone better. We have major structural issues in this country, and I think it starts with the United States Senate. And I think that until we have senators that are willing to stand up and stare the filibuster in the eye and stare.
Oh, yeah, it's the filibuster, the Senate, all while ignoring responsibilities from the House. Speaking of this, hey, AOC, remember in 2022, during that midterm election cycle, you and the Democrats were screaming from the rooftops, you got to help us out because we're the ones who will fight for you. Well, again, AOC, Biden's broken promise on college debt. Now the Supreme Court has rejected the Biden administration's attempt to forgive $430 billion in student loan debt. It is fair to ask whether Biden's action was both political and reckless. I voted for Biden, but I do not think the move was cynically political, coming as it did 100 days before the November congressional elections. Forgiving loans up to $20,000 to more than 40 million potential voters could be perceived as a crass attempt to buy votes. Again, this is an opinion piece from the Hill. Moreover, the federal student loan forgiveness program had virtually no chance of surviving judicial review by the current Supreme Court. But what is even more troublesome is that the president's pledge, taken at face value by millions, will perversely result in economic harm to the same debtors it was intended to rescue. Now, let's be very clear here. A promise was made to voters, and there's been this talk about student debt forgiveness. And here in the United States, unfortunately, it wasn't always like this. College used to be affordable. And again, not to get off track here, but if you are a young person going to college, please listen to my words. I'm not trying to roadblock you or tell you can't do it. If you got a full scholarship to go to college, ride it all the way home and walk out with zero debt. Stay dedicated to your studies. However, if you don't have a full scholarship or a whole bunch of money at your back, don't go to college here in America. Don't. Break the college industrial complex. If you want to go to a 4 or 5 year academic, have academic experience, go to college overseas, out of the country, where it's affordable or free. It's going to take some time, but wouldn't it be rather smart to take time to build up for that adventure than to be in debt for all eternity? I think that's planning for the adventure seems a lot better than being in debt for eternity. Or go to a trade school, get an apprenticeship program, go to community college. But don't enslave yourself to college debt. Moving on. We know that many with student loans did not make payments during the pandemic. Yeah, no, everyone was broke, genius. From March 2020 to August 2022, in response to the COVID emergency relief programming, which suspended loan payments, interest payments, and collections on defaulted loans. That same August, Biden announced his program to forgive the loans. As of today, it's been more than 3 years since the start of COVID, and most borrowers have not made any federal student loan payments since the beginning of the pandemic. Now, again, I know everyone has different opinions about student debt forgiveness, but I will say this, Biden never fought for it. He didn't fight for his people. He didn't fight for his voters, and AOC and Bernie Sanders tricked their supporters into supporting the Democratic Party and Biden. And now AOC and Bernie are doing it all over again. And again, Jank, not to keep on kicking you while you're down, but hey, you got to bring this up here. I think a lot of people assume Biden can't be beat in the primary because the only people who could credibly challenge him are other politicians and insiders. I think they're wrong. Only an outsider can beat Biden. Insiders are too soft and compliant. This thing ain't over. Well, Cenk, listen, you created Justice Democrats, and that failed miserably. And running in the Democratic primary as a progressive, that's not going to happen either. Okay. It's a fool's errand. I wish all the best to RFK Jr. and, yes, to some extent, Marianne Williamson, but the DNC has indicated that they're not going to have debates. They're not going to have any conversations whatsoever. The DNC has already picked Biden as their nominee, as have Bernie and AOC. The movement is over. It's over. That's the fallout of AOC's endorsement of Biden. It should be a clear signal that there is no possible reform for the Democratic Party. But hang on, folks, because I had to sit through this, and so do you. We're going to talk about AOC and how she, again, views at Trump, or as how she's asked if Trump is the easiest person for Biden to run against. Oh, history's repeating itself. Well, maybe not repeating itself, but it sure does like to rhyme. Let's play this video. Shout out to Case Study QB. Be sure to follow him on Twitter.
Ocasio-Cortez has made her mark in Washington since being sworn into office in January of 2019. At that time, she was both the youngest woman and the youngest Latina to ever serve in Congress. In her years on the Hill, she's become a progressive voice people look to for guidance and
No, I don't look to her for guidance.
reaction when things unfold, both in the Capitol and across the country. I got to chat with her recently about how she's made accountability a key part of her mission as an elected official. Here's a part of that conversation. So you're in the minority in Congress for the first time since you were elected.
Now, we did play this video before, right? But the only reason why we're seeing this interview happen again, and this really stands out, but doing an interview with a politician or anything like that, why aren't you in a studio or a controlled environment? Everyone's walking. They're walking. Why are we walking? Why are we setting up this shot? It seems pointless for this interview to take place like this. It's a waste of time. But I guess it sets the idea that, oh, AOC is just like a regular person. You can walk and talk with her at the same time.
It seems like you're kind of having fun being a bit of an agitator. Are you enjoying that
She's an agitator. Yeah, right.
role? I think holding those in power accountable is a fundamental part of our role, and it's a part of a role that I draw on from my history in advocacy and organizing and activism, but it's also one where we can propose solutions while we're also holding people accountable for the decisions that they're making. And so, yeah, I think it's been an important role for us to play.
So you're also a pretty politically astute observer. There is a presidential race that's happening right now. Donald Trump, people think.
Hang on. We got to talk about Donald Trump. So AOC is going to get triggered. Careful. She might jump off and go into the river and start screaming, Trump, Trump, Trump.
Some say is the easiest person for Joe Biden to run against. So what do you think about that?
Well,
The easiest potential Republican nominee, I should say.
I think there's something to be said about that. The dynamics of
By the way, I want to acknowledge Salty Digital Dive. This is a literal devil's three-way with the cameraman. Come on, buddy. Get your head out that gutter.
these races change from day to day. I think that Governor DeSantis has made some very large critical errors. And I think he's weaker than...
What are his biggest errors, do you think, as you've watched?
Well, you can't out-Trump Trump, right? And that's what he's really been trying to do.
Wow. AOC in a rare moment giving compliment to Trump. You can't out-Trump Trump. Is AOC supporting Trump now?
His attacks on teachers, on schools, on LGBT Americans, I think go way too far in the state of Florida. And I think that they are a profound political miscalculation and an overcompensation. He may be trying to win a base, but that base belongs to Donald Trump. And he has sacrificed, I think, the one thing that others may have thought.
Okay, so hold on. There's a little bit more to this. Hang on. Let's just go ahead and pull up the next video, just so that's at the ready for all of you to check out. Because, again, we're seeing AOC just talk more about Trump and how much of a threat he is.
competitive, which is this idea that he would somehow be more rational than Donald Trump, which he isn't.
Now, you're very familiar with surprising people and winning a primary. Is there anyone in the Republican field, you would disagree with them completely on policy issues, but that you think maybe they have something, or maybe they could take on Trump? It is early.
Oh, wow. Look. You could see AOC is struggling with this answer because she does want to upset Mama Bear or the Democratic establishment. You know, can't say anything too nice about Republicans, can you?
Early in the process.
You know, I think in the House, I see the dynamics and the political dynamics in the House very often mirror some of the political dynamics happening out in the country. And I think right now the Republican Party is so disorganized
but the Freedom Caucus did do a force to vote, AOC. Something that you and your fantastic friends who are on the force to vote petition said cannot be done.
really don't see someone that can unite that party even beyond Donald Trump. And so, to be honest, I don't, because the individuals that have wanted to appeal to people's cooler senses in the party have all been driven out. Every Republican who voted for impeachment has been
no longer
there. And so I really struggle to find anybody that can both accomplish that task and unite their party.
So you have developed this reputation. I don't know if you like this or not, as a firebrand.
That's what you call a brown nosing question. You're a firebrand, and we're walking down the street, but you're a firebrand. Look, she's all giddy and happy. Yeah, 5 years of AOC, firebrand. What has AOC done? Big old whopping zero.
Yeah. What do people get wrong about you?
Oh, we thought you were a fighter. We thought you were going to fight for us. We thought you were going to take on the Democratic establishment. We thought you had power. We thought you cared about people. Oh, wait. I'm sorry. Maybe let's see how AOC responds to this answer. What the people get wrong about you? Because I know what I got wrong about her.
Or not know about you.
I think very often when I meet with colleagues or individuals that I had not met with before, they are surprised that I do my homework a lot.
Oh, she does her homework a lot. Isn't that special?
I know when I had my first hearing.
Are you a little nerdy and people don't know that?
Oh, no, actually a little. No, I think, it's like when I had my first hearing with Michael Cohen, people were surprised that I tried to ask substantive questions. But
oh, yeah, she has questions. Okay.
I think that there is this idea that you somehow can't both be an effective communicator and discuss and challenge the bounds of our political imagination on substantive grounds. And I think we can do both, and I think we should do both.
Yeah. All right. Enough of that. That's just going to destroy our brains. But nonetheless, that's AOC, the firebrand, the former firebrand, the person who said that she was going to raise the ruckus. What can we take away from this? Obviously, and let's be clear here, hero worshiping these politicians only leads to more disappointment. Bernie and AOC killed their movement. And if they haven't done it before, they did it with their early support of Joe Biden. Joe Biden, whose approval rating is in the dumps. Kamala Harris's approval rating far lower than Biden's. We have economic instability, an ongoing war that is causing madness and stupidity. We have, again, nothing done about student debt, nothing done about Medicare for all. We have Americans struggling day in, day out just to make sure they still have a roof over their head, food in their stomach, medicine, and so much more. So the thing is, AOC, people voted for you and supported you. Same thing with Bernie. Everyone voted and supported him as well into thinking that they were going to fight for us. And they sold us out. In fact, that might have been the whole goal the whole time, to keep all of us subservient, good, obedient sheep, to never challenge the Democratic establishment. If you're not angry, you should be. But the fallout of AOC endorsing Biden should be this. At no point in time will the Democratic Party ever change its attitude towards you, the voters. They made it abundantly clear how they feel about voters, and they made it also very clear how they feel about voters standing on issues that they want to see Democrats fight for. The Democrats could have easily done something to protect Roe v. Wade. Dare I say it, affirmative action. They could have fought harder for student debt. But they didn't. Because they know they can make all of you afraid with emails saying you must fundraise us. Fear and fundraising. That's all what AOC is going to offer as soon as the old guard is gone. Break away from the two-party system.